Welcome back. I am Michael Lynch, and this is the Men Seeking Freedom podcast. We are not only a podcast, but we're a community of men. And the people who typically find us are people who are on the outside appearing to be very successful, which is good, but they tend to have something inside that they need to let out of them, and they're just not sure what the best way is to do it. They want to be known for who they are, not just what they do for a living in that type of role. And then what we do, as you see right now, is we bring in great guests who will talk directly to that audience. And a lot of times it'll be about their own personal experiences in life and things they've gone through, as well as what they're currently doing in their vocation. So, without further ado, I'm excited to introduce you to Charlie Hall, founder of Crown and Compass Consulting. He's a speaker, he's a man of faith, and he's agreed to let us have a heartfelt conversation today. So, Charlie, coming to us from one of my favorite states, Texas. Welcome, sir. How are you today?
Doing great, doing great. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
You had done the preparation that we had done for this. You had a lot of different subjects or areas of interest you wanted to go into. And one of the things I'd just like to start out with was you talked about the importance of leadership and the role it plays in your life. So a nice way for you to introduce yourself to this audience is Charlie Hall from Texas, loves leadership. Give us a little bit of an intro based on that.
Heck yeah. When I came back to my faith, God really reparented me. And I seen a lot of bad leadership in my life. And I realized I was leading my life badly. So I had to go through this whole entire process of God teaching me and building me, but also breaking me down in that process. So one of the fundamental principal things that he showed me in this process was if I intentionally apply his true love, his truth, and then wisdom to pain, it would bring me to change, correction, and repentance. If I did that with suffering, it would lead me to submit, surrender, and obey. So then if I did it in sacrifice, it showed me deeper aspects of love. So God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, even though we were sinners. So that whole process is understanding love deeper and what like how we're supposed to be in that. And then the last thing is uncomfortability. So the flesh is contrary to the spirit and the spirit is contrary to the flesh. So just because something's uncomfortable or it's painful or we have to suffer or sacrifice doesn't mean that it's always a bad thing. So in this whole leadership process, like if you're going to be a great leader, you will be a great servant, right? Jesus washed feet. So that's the whole entire point is that like you will serve everyone, but it won't be out of a self-destructive tendency. It'll be more about building others and it'll produce more love, truth, and wisdom for their life.
Charlie, at the beginning of that, you said, if I understood you correctly, you went back to faith. Had you had it originally in your life and then it went away, or how did that all play out?
For me, right, I was born in faith. My parents went through a divorce and I I fell away. I was seeking women in high school. Like I basically was neglected. I was neglected and stuff. And there was a lot of things that happened and I had a lot of free time to do whatever I wanted to as a teen and that didn't go well. I was baptized and whatnot, but I didn't truly knew what it meant to be a Christian. What is the term Christian? Like what actually is a disciple, disciplined learner. And I was like living my life very ignorantly and spiritually lacking. So I came back into my faith as far as I guess I had fallen away or backslid into the world and didn't even realize it. But at that point in time, if you would have asked me, I would have said I was Christian. So I had to get deeper into my faith to understand God and to really get more intimate with Him, like in all different kinds of ways.
Let's hold your thought right there. If I was, you said, if I was to get deeper into my faith, now think about the people that are listening to you right now. Tell them considering some people won't maybe instinctually do that on their own.
Mhm.
First of all, how did it play out for you? What happened when you said, I need to get deeper in my faith? How did that mechanically come together?
Oh man, it was a lot of brokenness. It was like conviction, I'd probably say. It was recognition and awareness and acknowledgement of ignorance. So Proverbs 9:10 says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding." So knowledge of something is intimacy. So if I can get more intimate with it and know more about it, then I can use it better. But also, am I going to use it for good? Am I going to use it for the proper things? So like I can use a tool and know about the tool, but is that tool, am I doing the right things with it? So for example, am I using God or the power, or am I like wanting to be close with him in that way of like our perfect Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. I need you because I am broken right now and there is nothing I can do in my situation. I can literally only bawl my eyes out at night because I need you. And it's every day, right? Like I need my daily bread. So like we truly take this as do everything is unto the Lord. And I've had to grow in this process because obviously like we go through stages like baby drinking milk and stuff, and then we can get into the meat of the scripture. And it's, to me, I just got excited and I became obsessed with learning from God and having him show me things and just digging into the word and everything I heard, trying to see God in it, or what any kind of revelation he was going to show me.
So when you were being moved to go down that road, was it a case of Charlie picking up a Bible? Was it a case of Charlie having a mentor in his life or a clergyman guiding him? How did the literal doing these great things in these behaviors you're talking about, was it all internal inspiration? How did that work out?
Okay, this is crazy because I was a driver at the time, a truck driver. And it mind boggles me till even today because it's like when you see God working or whenever you can look back at a situation and know God was there, it's just crazy because I was driving a truck, listening to YouTube, and I worked a certain job to where I would drive for 20 minutes and then stop for 20 minutes and then drive again for 20 minutes and stop for 20 minutes. So I would be listening to YouTube, bawling my eyes out, praise and worshiping. And then like I'd be like studying and taking notes, and then I would be reading my Bible and highlighting, and like it was like an entire college course because I was also going through therapy. So I was learning psychology and neuroscience by listening to podcasts of people that are 30 and 40 years in their fields. So I'm learning the experience that I'm having, breaking it down through my relationship that I had at the time, like my fiance, and like literally all this stuff that was going on. And I'm just like super excited. So I'm trying to reach out to people and get my cousin is a pastor, my whole family are ministers. And I was like getting excited trying to talk to him because everything he was saying was like aligning with everything I was doing. But we just never could get on the same wavelength as far as communicating. But I would listen to him and everything I was getting aligns with this. And even then it's like there was more stuff. So like God was taking me through this whole entire teaching process, but I had no physical mentor. Like I had no person that specifically God had me in solitude to live. Like I truly believe it was the Holy Spirit because like just one thing after another, and like writing notes and just all this kind of stuff. And man, it still blows my mind today, but because that's what it was like for me, is to experience all these things, the brokenness, coming back to my faith, crying, bawling my eyes out, like listening to Tim Fletcher on psychology, and like Joe Dispenza, Andrew Huberman, Dr. Caroline Leaf, all these different people. And like within a year, when like I felt like he just catapulted me, and it still grows. There's still more there. Like there's still more depth to it. Because even now, this is like 4 years from then. So now I have to be more disciplined. Like now I know what to do. So I need to be more consistent. I need to maybe be more structured. Like where your energy goes, or no, where your attention goes, your energy flows. I got that from Tony Robbins. But literally, it's true because he's real big on helping people in relationships. So why can't I communicate what I feel And I'm getting more aggravated that I can't express what I'm trying to express. You know what I mean? But also, it's, hey, look at what I'm doing, my intention and my effort. Don't you see I care? Don't you see that I love you because of like how hard I'm trying? So it's like I understand what it's like to be that broken man that wants to express how much you love and care for someone, but it's like they don't want to see it and they don't want to understand you. And it's like we're all selfish in our way of thinking of like only caring about the way we feel.
I
So
think
it's hard.
one thing I want to point out from everything you just said there, and I'm going to take the faith piece away just for a moment, is this insatiable desire to learn. Now, your category of wanting to learn is in the faith realm, but I think I just want to step back for a moment again and talking to this audience. As someone who went to a couple of years of college, I got into a career in sales, whereas you're gonna be best off learning as you go in life. So there's never an expiration date on learning. And I think it's important too, from the sense of when we get down the most about anything in life, one thing that can be a remedy is a commitment to, I'm going to learn X. I'm going to study this. I'm going to become proficient in this, we haven't talked about purpose or anything like that yet, but that ties in. But okay, I want you to pump your brakes for a second, because all I'm thinking about is I'm hearing this passion that
Okay.
you're bringing through and how comfortable you are talking this way. I want you for a moment indulge this audience, and I want to think about people listening, watching, who've never been to square one in a faith journey. Now, I see where you are. You're down the road quite a way. But I don't know if you can speak to that or not, of what is you're so it's persuasive what you're doing here, what you're saying. But talk to the person who says, I don't know if I've ever even wanted to take the first step
Mhm.
in understanding faith. What would you say to that person?
So if we, the curiosity, right? So like whenever we reach curiosity, like we got to pull on strands. So for each individual person, it would basically be what is making you curious to go down this road. And just like everything in life, everything is hard. You get to choose your heart. It's a good thing about we got free will because now we can choose which path that we take and choose what we believe. And I like to tell people this, you don't know what you believe until you have to fight for it. You don't know what you believe until literally like you go to the end of yourself out of love because you can always do more for someone else out of love than you can if you only love yourself. You'll give up way easier. So even the way God designed everything, it's as a perfect father would if he was going to teach us to literally be better, like to be more versions of himself, right? Have dominion and multiply. So if I'm speaking to that person that truly wants to understand what makes you curious, right? And then also don't shy away from the pain. Like we have to go to God with our pain and be broken because humility is the biggest asset we have because we can't even so Hosea 4:6 says we die for the lack of knowledge, not because like we didn't have it, but because we rejected it. So whenever you resist your pride, your ego, your self-defense mechanism of wanting to protect yourself, and like even like when you get triggered, trauma, right? Like, I'm gonna go fight, flight, freeze, fawn, do all these different things. We need to first regulate ourselves because we don't even know the biases that we have that make us like ultimately reject something. Like I've been
That's
through this before.
I agree. No, I agree in theory
Mhm.
with we need to regulate ourselves. That's high level self awareness. I don't think the average
Yes.
person who's going through life, and I'm saying this respectfully because I agree with you, but
Mhm.
who's going through and dealing with their life, I wonder how often when they have a moment where they go, and I respect your wording at it, but it's, hey, I need to I want to go back even just you talked about the importance of curiosity, but again, thinking about the
Mhm,
person who might be watching this where faith doesn't play a role, you then said another key word
mhm.
that to me is a door opener to a person that may want to know more about faith, and that is pain.
Yes.
And the Christian understands that we're not fortunate enough to be void of pain in life. Okay, so it's a hard thing to accept when you're younger. It's an easy thing to pretend isn't there. I think so. Yeah, pain. Again, you can follow up on this. Pain, asking a person who doesn't have faith in their life, do you have pain? And do you even call it that? And do you accept the concept that there's suffering? And what I'm trying to do here is it sets it up to where you can go. But I think that's a key thing. I see that as a divorced man, as I look out at the world and try to analyze, this is both men and women. I see that not everybody, especially those who haven't had faith, don't acknowledge the fact that there's pain and there's brokenness and things like that. So tell me your
Yes.
thoughts. Tell me your thoughts on that. Don't you think pain would be an identifier as to something that could open a door to a faith
Yeah.
oriented conversation?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because at the end of the day, and I'm trying to speak in a softer way or even just like a lightened way. So our perception, the way we were looking at something, the way we view something. For me, when I first came back into my faith, I had a false interpretation of what love was. I had no idea what love was. Like I thought I did, but I didn't. And then I didn't even understand truth at all. I was very ignorant, very lacking. And so when I'm trying to understand truth, and then I realized that I believed lies for a majority of my life, it's always hard to trust anything. So now when I'm getting hurt, like I didn't want to trust it. I didn't want to. I had to understand. I had to learn and grow. But in order to learn and grow, I had to be humble because I couldn't learn if I thought I knew everything. So whenever I'm going through this process, love hurts and truth hurts. The real kind of love and truth actually hurts. So how do we differ between the false truth and love that hurt and then the real truth and love that hurt?
Explain to the audience what you said. I thought I knew what love was, but I
Mhm.
didn't. What did you think it was? What is it that you now know that it is?
So I used to be extremely, and this relates to relationships. So I can speak to that, and maybe it might develop as we go. But okay, long story short, like at that point in time, I didn't realize what my inner child wound was. I was very narcissistic and would disrespect women and just constantly sought validation from scrolling on dating sites and trying to get the approval, right? And just, oh, hey, look at me. I was very narcissistic in a sense. So it was that selfish kind of love that was indulged with myself and infatuated with myself. So that narcissistic type stuff. But then when I come to realize actual love, it was more of other people and doing what's best for them. And that means being kind and not nice. I'm not just going to tell people what they want to hear just so I can look good. So my inner child wound was to be the invisible hero. So neglected and not seen and not heard and never given attention, all that kind of stuff. In our brain, it doesn't like so pain is the same when it comes to emotions and physical. That's just our brain just picks it up that way. It doesn't know how to differ it. So literally, like all of this stuff was repressed and suppressed inside of me. So now I'm acting like this towards my, at the time, girlfriend, fiance from an inner childhood wound. So 20, 30 years, this pain was still affecting me. And I believe God designed us in this way to where when the light happens, like the light is casted onto the darkness, right? It reveals things. So the acknowledgement, the recognition of something, and then we choose what we do with it from there. So the Pharaoh, who is God that I should have to worship him, right? And then hardens his heart. And then God hardens his heart and then ultimately leads him to down his path. So long term, God's the one that has forethought. I don't. So I have to let him lead me in spirit. And I know I went like on a tangent there a little. We circled a bit, but
Tangents here.
Is there? But the main thing is that like the truth hurts because it destroys your ego and your pride majority of the time. Like we can be bold, but we can also still be humble because love also hurts. But what kind of love is it? Like it's gonna hurt more of me when I display it in a sense, pride and ego. But I think it would just be trying, if you're really questioning and wanting to know God, you always have to question yourself. And I don't mean in a way of, am I doing right? Be anxious about it. But in that sense of if God is a perfect father and he is love and he is goodness and he is truth, what would that mean in this situation? If he was a perfect father for me and he could parent me, how could I become better from this situation and understand who he calls me to be? Because he loves you regardless. There's nowhere you can go to get away from his love. So at the end of the day, knowing that love hurts, but God disciplines and chastises those he loves. So that means he's going to set boundaries. You might get a spanking every now and then. You know what I mean? Or just something. And what I mean by that is like the pain of his love is worth it. And that's pretty much where it brings me because I'd rather have that and deal with my grief and deal with my brokenness and deal with the problems than drink them away or do something that would be a coping mechanism that would only steal, kill, or destroy happiness, peace, and love and the people I care about in my life.
How close do you, so you use the term who he's called you to be.
Yeah.
Where do you feel you are at this stage of your life in terms of honoring who you feel he's called you to be?
More into the actionable or practical area to where like I'm gaining wisdom through experience. So actually applying this instead of just study and learn, you know, because I have an overwhelming amount of notes and just like studies that I've written down and whatnot. And now I'm just trying to, because there's a certain point to where like we can help others. Sometimes we need help. And sometimes we're at a point to where we are able to help others, but also there is like a limbo season, I feel like. And I feel like I'm like right there on the edge of the limbo season and into the actual like full-fledged like warrior, like marching forward type of truly being able to help people. And the reason why I say that is because as a leader, I'm still trying to balance and know properly when to initiate, when to walk side by side with, and then also when to let someone else take charge. Because like true leaders will lead from the back if they have to for the team.
One of the, as I told you earlier, one of the themes of this group is getting men to speak up, articulate feelings or emotions they may not even feel like they have permission to give. You're a candid person. Even before we went on to record, you had shared some things. Speak to this community about processing pain, if you're willing, processing pain that you're currently dealing with.
Just anything, right? Like we have to be able to be present, like in this present moment, because the present moment keeps moving. And the more the past weighs us down, we can't be present. And the more we're too anxious or worried about the future, we're not in the present. So, how am I dealing with things that come up? Do I just stuff it in the corner? Do I just try to stuff it in the box until it overflows? It's okay to cry. And there'll be moments like there'll be songs for me.
Who gave you that permission? Who gave you permission to cry? I'm
I
I'm
know,
I'm
right?
having I'm not I'm with you. I love the way you said that. It's like
Mhm.
some guys don't realize they have that permission.
Yeah. And man, so there's so much more to say right now. Like, all right, so I watch anime long story short. And basically, I listen to a lot of music, praise and worship, and just all different kinds of songs. And the songs will be hitting sometimes. Or I'll be watching an anime and I'll see a certain scene like, and one of the biggest things for me is My Hero Academia. And for anyone who doesn't know, I'll make it short, but basically it is one for all for one, different powers, good and evil. And the good guy, he wants to save the bad guy, and it reverts to little kids. He goes, I'm gonna save that child. Because at the end of the day, even in marriage, we're not the savior, but also it doesn't mean that we still can't nurture and love and take care of our own inner child. So, like, I've had to tell my inner child it's okay to cry. So, when I'm in those deep moments and I'm missing my kids because my wife just up and left and took them, and she wants to pay me back, and she wants to make me pay for not listening to her, and just all this other kind of stuff, and just saying that I wasn't good enough or I wasn't the man that I was preaching and trying to do all this stuff right for. And it's wow. Like, why would you try to destroy someone you said you loved? So at the end of the day, I want to protect my kids from what I had to go through as a kid.
Quick question, Charlie. Did your
Yeah.
when you were referring to your ex or you're going through a divorce you mentioned,
Yeah.
did you have with her a faith connection?
Somewhat. Yes. That's so she was Church of Christ and I was just Christian on and on. And we have two kids together, two under two, and we traveled for this job that she was staying with me, and or we all stayed together. And basically, we had a at home birth for our most recent. Our oldest rider, he's 2 and 4 months, and our youngest was like 9 months right now. And it was crazy. So like we would connect, but it was never like there was barely any alignment, no agreement on anything. We didn't have any compatibility. There's a difference between true guilt and false guilt. And I had to understand manipulation and deception and all these different things and trauma bonding. And I went through struggling to understand relational attachment theory and just I was trying to learn enough that would help me express how I felt better or even show up better. And it felt like I had to earn love. It wasn't, there was no reciprocity. It wasn't mutual. And it got to a point to where, because I was still healing, right? Obviously, I'm not perfect, and I get that. I know that. So at the end of the day, why am I trying to earn love when it's not being reciprocated? Respect, honor. Don't just not just, hey, listen to me. I'm a dictator. Like I run this house. No, no, like I don't want to lose my family. You know what I mean? Like we have to work together. We're both leaders here. Men and women are equal. So I need my equal partner to help me. You know what I mean? I'm carrying too much of the load here. Like we have to work together. Like woman, like you have power and authority in the spirit. You don't even understand or know. And it's I would try to encourage, and it fell on hard ground.
Okay, so uh, let's go back to 20-year-old Charlie, advice giver, and he's giving advice to himself based on what he's learned now through his life. Where I'm going with this, because I think this is a general theme of this community to be thinking about is now that you're been through what you have, what's the importance of finding out about faith and the alignment early on in a relationship? How do you feel
Mm,
about that? To me, the reason I'm bringing this up, I'm taking you down a road here. I was not in a faith aligned marriage. And without getting into too many details, I just one of the things I learned was I want to be more aware of faith connection going into anything serious I do at this point on in my life. I don't know if obviously you're in the midst of things right now. Do you have any thoughts on what you have learned and how and how in your life may affect future behavior?
Regardless of how hard something might be, or we might think it is, we still need to make sure we're guarding our heart, but we also listen to it. Like, because there's a reason why we have fear. And then that actually plays into the role of the fear of the Lord, but we create what we fear. So I might perform too much to try to avoid something that I'm scared of. But at the end of the day, it might also create it at the same time. So I might not want something fake. I might fear fake love or fear like being abandoned or fear being rejected or fear what I'm going to look like, even like my dignity or whatever. But at the end of the day, like anything I fear more than God is honestly just going to be a distraction and will get in the way of what I'm supposed to be doing in the moment.
Mm.
Because anxiety, depression, like anger is a secondary emotion. So there's a lot of other different things that actually trigger and activate anger, like sadness. Like yeah, like there's a reason why fear is a big indicator when it comes, and that's why God says, "Fear the Lord." It's the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. So intimacy with God, like consistently, will help us show up and overcome our fears of everything else. And then we can lay our life down in the best positive way to actually give someone love, truth, and wisdom, and even give them hope, which is the substance of faith, the evidence of things unseen. So that is the point, is that like now I can look to my perfect Father and say, I rely on your promises. I trust you. Set my path straight, like Proverbs 3, 5 through 6 says. I will acknowledge you in everything that I'm doing. I will do everything as unto you in my life. Like, I won't eat that. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to ingest this. I'm not going to do all these things because all that is a distraction. It's taking away from my goal and my purpose of being who God made me to be, because it would actually really suck to not be or do what He called me to do because I never became who I was supposed to be in the first place.
I love the connection you so fear. We all
Yeah.
fear things, yet we don't maybe want to acknowledge them. You make this connection, which has a nice soothing component to it of connecting fear to wisdom. Thus, if I can, and again, theme of the group, can we get people to speak about things that they're not comfortable talking about? The average guy who might be listening to this might be saying, I'm fearing something and I really don't want the world to know what it is that I'm fearing. But then saying, wait a minute, what if fear triggers a desire for wisdom to address the fear? I love that. I think that's you're dropping a nice idea in here for the person who might be saying to themselves, I want to put something out into the world that I'm holding back. But if I attach it, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with curiosity. Curiosity is obviously the root of wisdom as well. Great connection. Tell us a little bit about, so we've been going personal here. Crown and we talked about you being a speaker. We've talked about Crown and Compass. I'm sorry, consulting. Just tell the audience a little bit about how who you are plays out in those parts of your life.
Yeah, yes, sir. I believe identity is the main purpose that we should be on, not just to claim who we are and to stand up on the hill and say, this is who I am, but like in this process of getting to know God, allowing Him to show you who you are. Because like we don't know the difference between good and evil, good and bad. Like what is good, what is bad. Like God hates divorce, but yet we go through it. So at the end of the day, the pain, suffering, all that kind of stuff, like in this process, how can God show me more of who I am through me understanding more of who He is? So it's the intimacy factor, which brings in the curiosity and then develops more of the fruits of the spirit. So love being the first, patience, peace, kindness, all these other kind of things. So that really results us to being more humble. And then now we're growing and learning because now obviously we're going to fail trying because we're not going to do things right the first time. So how can I do better? How can I do better the next time? So any kind of leadership issue is an identity fracture. So I don't know who I am if I'm anxious, avoidant, overwork, I burn out, or do all these things because God's making us into a perfect masterpiece, like Ephesians 2:10 says, being made into a masterpiece. So how can I look at this like I'm not just a teacher, I'm also a disciplined learner, which is what a disciple is. So now I can actually learn from all things as I continuously grow because it's not my victory I operate from, it's his. Christ's victory on the cross. So I'm going to have to fail my whole entire life. But that doesn't mean I got to stay a failure because that's an identity. The two most powerful words that we do and say, which is acknowledging God, is I am. He told Moses, I am the I am. That's who you say I am. Because at the end of the day, whenever you say I am something, you are agreeing and confessing identity with what now you now believe you are. So at the end of the day, are we going to have false positivity and false hope, or are we going to be like the little engine that could? I think I can. 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 Like, why do we go to the gym? We work out, right? Like we want to get stronger. Intentional pain to be diligent, but then you also need rest. You need nutrition. So that's what I try to help people with is to learn all these different aspects about the body and ourself and who we are. And then I meet people where they're at, and then I listen. And then maybe help them come into an acknowledgement or awareness of something that they can be curious about that will help them on their path. Because I don't have all the answers, but we can come to them together.
One of my favorite, I'm not going to attribute it to myself, but sayings is I'm much more interested in the person who has all the questions than the person who has all the answers, which is obviously a fallacy to start with. So just in recapping, it's funny, I always enjoyed taking notes in these conversations, and I'm looking at words that have come up through this process of, in addition to the faith component, leadership, vulnerability, curiosity, what is love and what is truth, guard the heart. There's the reason I'm bringing these up, Charlie, is because I think people who are listening and watching this, obviously you're pretty open about who you are, but I'm just kind of summarizing these key things. Another word you brought up too, as we start to wrap this up, is the number of times you've said the word intimacy. Intimacy is one of those words that has a lot of different types of meanings, but I really like the way you've positioned it. It's in relation to things that are of these are my words in listening to you, in
Yes,
relation
sir.
to, and to me, just where I'm looking at this conversation is I think you've triggered for people that I keep saying who may want to be more knowledgeable about faith and then the role it plays throughout your life. Charlie, if so, people, thank you, first of all, for people that want to connect with you to learn more about you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yes, sir. So I have a website, www.crowncompassccd.com. So it's just Crown Compass
CCD.
CCD. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's coaching, consulting, and discipleship
Okay. Excellent.
is what that
And,
stands for.
and that's the best way to get hold of you.
Yes, because it'll have all my social medias on there as well. I go live on TikTok and I talk with people about all this and whatnot.
Perfect. So for all listening and watching, please share this episode. Charlie has just given a lot of depth to a lot of issues that I think men in general deal with. And again, thank you, Charlie. If you need more information on this community, Men Seeking Freedom, you simply go to menseekingfreedom.com. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.